Never mind, there's no echo. Okay.
Oh, okay, good.
I'll fix your Wi-Fi.
No, I hopefully it's not. But yeah, my volume's totally down. So echo is gone now on Hillary's side. Yay, thank you so much.
Okay, bueno, pues I think we're good on volume. We're good on the cameras. So we're going to go ahead and start. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We do have a Juicy Live today, and our guest speaker is La Abogada Hillary. Hillary is here with us to give us a little bit of information for those DACA recipients who have been thinking about applying for a green card through either their careers or their employer. So it's a hot topic, and it's a very juicy information that we're going to be discussing today. So before we even start, please share the video. I think that's one way to poner tu granito de arena to reach this information to someone who might need it, okay? So thank you, Hillary, for joining today. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It is awesome. Rosita says there's still an echo, so I'm a little... Yeah, you got it. Okay, so the question is, like, who can qualify? What's the process? Like, let's talk really big picture about this. And I mean, I hesitate to give too much hope because I realize that this is dreamers are a demographic of people who have been, I don't know if your channel uses bad words, so I will censor myself, but have been messed with, and kind of toyed with. And so what I want to say is, pretty much anybody can do the employment-based petition process, an employment-based green card, if you have an employer willing to petition for you. The reason I say this is because there are not enough workers to fill the number of jobs that we have in the United States. And USCIS likes it when employers petition for their employees. Where things get a little complicated is when we want to deviate from an employer petitioning. Maybe I want to petition for myself. Or worse, what if I own my own business and I am the employer? How do I solve this problem? So I think that if you have a degree, that's the first step to being able to do self-petition. Or if you are really, really exceptional, I'm talking like Emmy Award winning or Pulitzer Prize winning, or like I'm talking really, really big awards. Those are the types of things where you can do a self-petition and not have a degree. But if you work for yourself and you own your own business, like so many DACA recipients do, this becomes complicated, especially if you don't have a degree. So I think that we got to kind of talk through different positions. I like to talk about it in terms of jobs, because otherwise it's like too many ideas and not enough, like, how does this apply to me?
I see. And well, I think what worries a lot of people is the, ¿cómo le llaman? Unlawful status, acquiring unlawful status. Yeah. So I think that is one of the things that makes people like, well, I have unlawful presence. Mm-hmm. So is there any chance, any hope for those who have unlawful presence already acquired, for them to be able to go through a route like that?
Yeah. And I do think if you mute yourself while I talk, it may be the solution. If you mute yourself on your computer while I talk, that might be the solution.
Computer? I think they're saying YouTube. I mean,
I think it's on your computer, but we'll see. I don't know. So unlawful presence, there's only a couple of remedies for unlawful presence, because a lot of people get kind of advanced parole and unlawful presence confused. And so they will say, well, I have advanced parole, I have a lawful entry. Can my employer's petition help me adjust status where I can get my green card in the US? And so starting with advanced parole, absolutely not. You cannot adjust status from no status. And technically speaking, DACA is no status. You are in protected status, you are in deferred action, but it is not a status. So you can't adjust from that unless you have an immediate relative. And that's why everyone's always like, you should marry a citizen, because this is an immediate relative that once you have a lawful entry, you can adjust through your immediate relative. Okay, but we're talking about careers here. I want to say up front that if you adjust status through your marriage to your career, you have to go to the consulate. There is no fixing your status in the US. Okay. So yes, unlawful presence becomes a really big deal, because if you got DACA when you were 21, from the time you were 18 to 21, you had unlawful presence. The clock was ticking every day you were here. And so then when you go to leave, you're going to face an unlawful presence bar unless you get a waiver before you go. The only way to get a waiver is if your mom or dad or your step parents or your spouse has status. So mom, dad, step parents, or spouse is a resident or U.S. citizen.
So it gets trickier, but there's still some people who may still be able to like jump through that extra hoop.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And what's really cool is when I talk to people and they're like, look, my spouse also has DACA, but his mom is a resident. And I'm like, okay, there's my pathway. Because what I need to do is I need to make your spouse a resident, and then you have a qualifying relative. So then when it's time for you to leave, we've already gotten your waiver approved. So it's like just different ways of kind of solving this puzzle together. But if you're married to someone and they don't have status and their parents don't have status and neither do you, you do get stuck. You are stuck because you have to then serve your time outside the country for your unlawful presence bar. And nobody wants to do that because usually it's 10 years, right? It's like an impossibility.
Yeah.
That's where we talk about T visas and U visas, because those things allow you to fix your status in the US. But that's completely aside of your that's completely aside from your career.
Oh, I see. So there is a possibility, but specifically for those who have, so we're talking about for those who have some type of unlawful presence, if they were to have like, I guess, be able to qualify for this type of waiver, that might make it a little bit less difficult for them to go through the process. Yeah. And what type of visa are we talking about? Like what type of application would this be?
The form is I-140. So in a marriage-based process, as you know, your U.S. citizen spouse petitions for you on an I-130. An employer petitions for you, or you petition for yourself as your own. That's why I jokingly call it like your marriage to your career. And it's an I-140. So it's just 10 points more, or 10 letters or whatever it is, numbers more, and you get to an I-140. So that's the form itself. Now, I don't know if you ever looked at the visa bulletin. If anyone's ever looked at the visa bulletin, it comes out, it tells you like which categories and all this other stuff. They have a section for family, and then you go right below that and they have a section for employment. And there's priorities for your green card, essentially, based on your employment, just like it is for your family. Like if your brother petitions for you, you are fourth preference. Similarly, if you have like a low skilled job, you're going to be fourth preference. That's why I say, like, if you're a janitor and I don't ding anybody who does housekeeping, I've done the same thing. But like, let's say you're a janitor, first year on the job, and your employer wants to petition for you, you're going to be fourth category, but you can get a green card through that process. And that's really cool.
A ver, Hillary.
Yeah. Dígame.
Are we still talking about a person who's already here? They're able to get a, even if they would be like a housekeeper or a janitor, because I know people that do that, right?
Yeah.
What other requirements would there be for a person?
Let's use a pretend person. What do you want to name him or her?
Spanglish boy.
Spanglish boy. Okay, so Spanglish boy entered the United States. He got DACA when he was, how old do you want him to be?
He was 10.
I'm so bad. I have a limit on my TikTok for 2 hours, and then my timer goes off, and my timer just went off. So
I was like,
Okay, so Spanglish boy got DACA when he was how
10.
old? 10. Okay, so he has no unlawful presence.
At all.
Excellent.
Oh wait, no, you can't. Sorry, you can't get DACA when you're.
Yeah, I mean, I've had kids who were 15 and stuff like that, but I was like, they were really just. So let's say 16. How's that?
Yes.
He's never left the country, not married to a U.S. citizen, etc. His employer wants to petition for him. Let's say he's an entry-level anything, entry-level mechanic, entry-level bug sprayer person, or entry-level janitor, whatever you want to call it. The employer says, I want to petition for you. The employer does the whole process. They have to recruit. We go through making a job description, et cetera, et cetera. It all gets approved. We're all good. Spanglish boy has to wait for his green card to be, his visa bulletin to be current. And he's going to be the fourth preference, the lowest preference, where they give the least number of visas available. They call it a visa, but it's really a green card. So he's going to have to wait a couple of years for that. When it's his time, and it's like within 6 months or whatever of it being current, he's going to send his DS-260, just like he would if this were a marriage-based process or a family-based process. He sends his DS-260 to, is he from Mexico?
Yes.
Okay. He sends it to Ciudad Juarez. He goes to his interview. He does not need a waiver because when he leaves, he does not have any unlawful presence. Okay. So he is good. He goes to his interview in Ciudad Juarez. He has to do his physical. He has to do all the same stuff everybody else does. He's approved and he comes back and he has to do that job for at least 6 months because we have to show that it was a bona fide job offer and he actually was doing this not for the papers, just like you have in a marriage. You don't want to get a divorce right away because it's going to look a little sus, right? So that's kind of how the process is. That is any position, and we can go up the ladder in various positions if the employer is petitioning for them.
Wow, that's so interesting. So before we talk about the other scenario, if he was already 21 or 22 when he came, before we talk about that, how long más o menos does this process take, and around how much do people normally invest? Because I know these processes can be costly, right? And I think that's what stops people from even like contacting an attorney, right? Because they get scared. And it's okay to be scared, but also we have to know that we pay for our DACA renewal every single 2 years or more because, you know, we have to pay for the USCIS fees. We have to pay.
Right. I think there's also a psychological cost of being where you have DACA, like the psychological cost of not being able to just live your life freely. So I think there's that too. But lives,
I do like to tell people, like, give them like an idea of what this is, because this is conversations that they normally don't hear publicly, right?
Yeah, so for sure.
How can they, like, what is the time frame and how much does this type of process can you think of?
So I have good news for people when it's time for them to do the employment base. It's good news, bad news. So the good news is the USCIS requires the employer to pay for the perm process. So you're actually not allowed to pay for it. You can pay for your green card when it's time to actually, like, the DS-260 portion and all of that, but the employee is not allowed to pay for it. Otherwise, it starts to get really complicated. Am I really extending you a job? It just becomes like there's a conflict of interest almost. So USCIS requires the employer to pay for this process for you. I charge $8,500 to the employer for that. Oh. I charge it in 3 payments, so about $2,200 across the course of every 3 months for 9 months. So it's really affordable when you break it down. Like that.
Charges más o menos how much to employers?
I charge $8,500 to employers.
Oh, no, but is there another fee for USCIS on top of that?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that part. Yeah, USCIS will charge $715 for the filing fee. But there's also an option for something called premium processing. And that means that USCIS will give you a response, not an answer, but a response in 15 days. And that's about, gosh, I can't quote it, but it's over $2,000.
Wow. Okay.
But and the employee or the employer can pay that. But otherwise, it's like an almost 2-year wait just to get your application processed. So I always encourage the employer or the employee can pay for it if they want, to fork out the cash. Like, let's just get this done. Don't sit in this 2-year line because you have to stay employed with the employer for this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So nothing that you have said yet has made me go like throw my desk. Like, oh, yeah. Like I feel like, I don't know about you guys, right? But to me, something like this, if you have someone that is able to petition you, like an employer that would be accessible to this, and a job that you think would qualify under what we've discussed, which is really any entry level job, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's not even entry level. Like if you have a master's, your employer, like I'm doing several perm processes for people who are very high up in law firms, and they can't necessarily petition for themselves. And sometimes they don't want to petition for themselves because of the financial reasons. Right. When I do self petitions, my starting rate is $15,000. So it's a big difference, especially because you as the individual pay it versus your company. So there's also like a give and take with freedom too, because like you get to do it for yourself. But
yeah, and we will talk about that one in a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Different process, but for this scenario that we're discussing, about how long would it take? So, más o menos.
Yeah, I know that this is such a lawyer answer, but it's depende de. Depende de on your country. So it depends where you're from. So if you're from India, there's a lot of people from India who are applying, and they have a specific number of visas that are available per country. But if you're from Mexico, it's going to be 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Still not bad, right?
I'm still not flipping my desk. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, I have cases where I have a friend, I did her green card application for her husband. I mean, they were very wealthy. They would have paid any amount to get this taken care of. And it took 3 years. And this was because it was post-pandemic, but it was just a mess. And so like I say that they were wealthy because they went above and beyond. They contacted every senator that they could. They called USCIS as much as physically possible. And you cannot push the rope on some of this stuff. And then when the processing time and the wait time is like 3 years for people, you're like, yeah, you're going to renew your DACA during this time. You might have 2 more renewals left in you. And then the goal is to go through all of those DACAs and then get to the green one in about 2 or 3 years.
Got it. Okay. That's a really interesting, like, I feel like my eyes were like,
Yeah.
But
what about Indians, it can be like, I'm talking 20 years or more. So it really does depend on where you're from. But Mexicans, it's a great option for lots and lots of people.
Okay, I see. All right. And then, so what about if Spanglish boy got their DACA at 21 or 22 years old after they had already acquired unlawful presence, or they got it before, but they're like sonsos and they let it expire for more than 6 months? What about then if this is the scenario?
Yeah. So he's going to have a qualifying relative for a waiver, or we're going to have to get creative. So let's talk about the waiver process, and then let's talk about all of the like tricks up the sleeve. Mm-hmm. So if he has a mom or a dad or a spouse who has status, lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen, we file for a waiver. The waiver is called an I-601A. It's a provisional waiver. It means that we will approve it before you have the problem. We will approve it here in the United States before you leave. So you don't leave and find out, oh crap, I'm stuck here for 10 years. Mm-hmm. The problem with this, it is what it is. Not only do you have to have a qualifying relative, it takes 5 years. This waiver is taking 5 years right now. And so you talk about the 2-3 years it's going to take you for step one with your employer, and then you put 5 years in the middle of that, and you need to be working for your employer this whole time.
Oh, okay. So
it's a very long time. You really are in a very committed relationship at this point. And then once it's approved, you have to wait for your interview in Ciudad Juarez. So it's a very long process. Granted, it's worse to just stay stuck. The only way that we get going forward is to take the first step, but it does become more complicated. Now, what if Spanglish boy doesn't have a mom, dad, or spouse who has status? Does Spanglish boy's spouse, if he's married, does he have a spouse who their parents have status? Because then we can get his spouse's status fixed through his or her parents. And then now his spouse is a lawful permanent resident. Boom, we have a waiver. This is like the 20-year plan though.
Yeah.
This is where like the wheels come off the wagon when everyone's like, just do it the legal way. This only took me a few years. Other immigrants will shit on this process and like, oh, it only took me a few years. What are you talking about? And you're like,
why are you not so long? And I already got my green card, and it's a whole different process. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Exactly.
Assuming that everything's the same for everybody, but there's some people who just don't have a spouse that can petition and don't have children who can petition them. This is their only, I guess, opportunity. So they're looking.
That's where we get into, if Spanglish boy, let's say he doesn't have any qualifying relatives, he's stuck. He is straight up stuck unless he wants to spend 10 years outside the country. And I do see I see a tragically high number of DACA recipients who are saying, I'll see you later. And my hope is that maybe, I want them to come back because they are such a vital part of our country. But if they're out for 10 years, and let's say that they had unlawful presence, that 10 years is going to run and maybe they'll want to come back. But the other option is, what if we can have someone go out and come back on a different visa? So H-1B, that's kind of complicated right now because it's $100,000 fee, but let's pretend that's not an issue because I don't think it will be soon. But what we could do is put this employee, like let's put Spanglish boy, he works at my law firm, let's say, doing whatever job you want him to do. I put him in the H-1B lottery. In the H-1B lottery, he gets picked. I have him go to Mexico. He has advanced parole. So if something goes wrong, I know he's coming back. He gets his H-1B stamp in his passport and he comes back in. He now can run his 10 years inside the United States. And then wherever he wants to go, whether it's another company or if he's going to stay with mine or whatever, now his 10 years have run and he no longer has this unlawful presence issue because we had him come back, he had him leave and come back in a different status that allows, because you can run the 10 years anywhere. So these are like the different complicated ways of, we have to be really creative in solving these problems.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main things, right? Like people, obviously this conversation that we're having today is because it opens up a can of worms, right?
Yeah.
So if your little like lights are going off and you want more information, of course you should get it because you shouldn't be just getting all the information from the live. But the reason I wanted to invite you, and again, thank you for joining us, is because I think a lot of people don't think about these other creative ways to self-sponsor because because of everything, right? It takes too long and because it's a little more complicated. But you know what's also complicated? It's being undocumented, right? So you think about it like, damn, like otros 10 años con DACA, like, or should I just like do something else and try and see if I have any other opportunities? So it might be for some of you, this might seem like an opportunity. And for some of you, it's like, no, like this is ridiculous. It's way too much. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. But I think these are the important conversations that people need to hear.
Yeah. And I really think it comes down to how much for me, for being free to make my own choices is like why I have my own law firm. And I want to be able to run my own life. Freedom is so important to me. And so when every single decision you make and you have made since you were a teenager is still controlled literally by the government, that's not freedom and that's not democracy. Right. You're like living in some type of weird
hamster wheel,
alternate universe that we call the United States of America. And so it's like, how can we get you to actual freedom, which is where the government is not calling the shots on your actual life,
Yeah. And so for the first one that we discussed about, like that would be a way for a person to do it, but there's no lottery. Like they would just go through a time frame, right? Or is there like, I guess what I'm thinking is like a lottery seems like I may or may not get picked.
Yeah, the lottery is tricky. I mean, we could do. It's tricky with different types of visas. Like if your company has multiple locations, you can do an intercompany transfer. So if I have an office in Mexico City and I have an office here in Phoenix, I could do an intercompany transfer and get a visa for that person to then come back in and work in my company through like an L1 transfer type visa. So it's like this whole other realm. And I think that's like probably the most complicated part of what I do, but kind of bringing it back to the moral of the story is if you have unlawful presence, we have to try to find a creative solution, and we can get as creative as you are willing to get. It's all legal, but like you kind of got to be willing to be innovative. And having DACA trains people to be very risk adverse. because your whole life, if you take any risk, if you take any risk, you could risk everything. And really, at the end of the day, though, you're risking money and hope. Right. And those are two big, important things to put on the table, because you don't want to have hope that this is going to work out and then it not. But also, like, do you really want to wonder and then have regret?
Yeah, I think you like hit the nail with the hammer right on the head. Even with advanced parole, like there's a lot of people that currently are married to a U.S. citizen who can petition them, and all they need is their legal entry. They have no, like other issues, no double entries, no nothing, and they're just stuck because they're going to do advanced parole because we've never been able to travel internationally. So.
I talked to 2 women today who their boss wants to petition for them, and I was doing their intake, and they're both married to U.S. citizens. And I was like, hey, let's get on the phone. I want to have a conversation with you. And both of them were scared to do advanced parole. Both of them are Mexican young women. And I said, hey, why don't we not do advanced parole to Mexico then? Like, if you're like, whatever it is that you're afraid of, because I don't think they were necessary. They couldn't quite identify what the fear was. It wasn't necessarily leaving. They really didn't want to have to leave. But you can do advanced parole to any country. If you're doing it through something like an educational opportunity, you want to go to this personal development seminar that you can tie to your work, and your work writes a letter that wants you to go to this and that sort of thing. So there are so many ways to do advanced parole that you kind of feel safe and protected. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like having a baby. I have 4 kids. Every single time I had a kid, I was like ready to do it. And then when it was showtime, I was like, never mind, I'm going to go home. Millions of babies are born, maybe millions, I don't actually know, but like millions of babies are born every single day, and lots of people are fine. But there are complications for just enough of us that we worry. And so I think that's the closest that, as someone who's never had to be in your shoes, that's the closest that I can relate.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, like, so let's say we're discussing this employer like based petition. Like, let's say you're there at home thinking like, would my employer petition me? Like, I've been working, I'm loyal, I'm punctual, I'm the best salesperson. How should I start this conversation? How can Spanglish boy go and talk to their employer? And also, like, what are the hurdles that you see? Like, do employers want to do this, or do they see this as a like, damn, like, no, I'm not going to do that for you because it's a waste of my time. There's so many other people that I can just hire.
Yeah. I think those people, we need to stop tolerating bosses who don't care about us and treat us like commodities. I think that's number one. Like, let's stop tolerating this. But I know that that's easy to say because I'm my own employer. You got to pay your bills and that sort of thing. So, but I also think in your heart, when you make a decision that you're not going to tolerate that anymore, the universe is going to move in and create the opportunity for you, right? It's so true. But I have a training because so many people ask me this question. They're like, I want to talk to my boss, but I don't know how. It's free, and it's in my like TikTok link tree thing. And it says how to talk to my boss. But the bottom line is it's the same as when you go in and ask for a raise. You have to know how to explain the value to the employer and the value that you bring. And the nice thing is there's a ton of research online that talks about how expensive it is to replace employees. You're not going to have to replace me. Look, I'm going to be with you for a minimum of 2 or 3 years because of this process requiring me to be. And then imagine the loyalty I'm going to have to you after this process is done. Like, this is you showing that you have my back. You better believe I'm going to show you that I have yours. And the cost of $8,500 over the course of 3 years of essentially guaranteed employment is so low. I mean, we spend probably that much on going out to dinner. You know what I mean? So that is exactly, like, depending on what it is, exactly. So, but there's so many people, and I see them commenting here where their employer's willing to do this, and it's the easiest thing to do is say, hey, will you get on a call? And let's figure out, like, let's go into this with an open mind because maybe this will work out. It would mean so much to me if you just come to this call. And then you have a chat with, it's my team, or lots of wouldn't say that lots of companies do this, lots of law firms, but my law firm certainly does. So I would love to have conversations with you and at your employers.
Oh, you're open to chatting with them.
Oh, for sure. They actually both have to come. The interesting thing is when you do the
whenever you explain, like before they decide that they're gonna do the process, you're down to like also do that service. Oh wow.
Come in and talk. I'm a salesperson, man.
They're scared to like speak up for themselves. Like me. I'm good about telling others like, hey, no te dejes.
Yeah.
Value, you're the best salesperson, tell them this and that. But then like for me, like them, I'm always like scared, right?
Shut down.
For others, but that is a great thing to know. Okay, so that's you can
just have them. Exactly. So it's just like, let's have this, will you come to us and have this conversation? And it's not I'm biased. And I even tell employers this. I will say, look, if you work with me, I work for the employer because that's what USCIS requires. I represent the employer. But the reason I do this work is because I care about your employee and I want to help them go from DACA to green card. And so I am a biased person in favor of helping them. And here's why I think you should do this. I also think that it is a really great way for companies to even kind of publicize and recruit. Like, can you imagine?
Right.
Yeah, we will. If you have DACA, we will sponsor you.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you, like, okay, so let's say, well, we have all this information, and I'm thinking, okay, what are the type of employers that you normally see doing this type of process or being inclined, or who are your normal clients that?
Normal clients, yeah.
I don't know, like, I'm sure you have an idea of the type of people that normally are able to go through this route.
It is so surprising, the range. So. Okay. For me, it's a lot more fun when I work with small companies because mom and pop shops, there's not a lot of bureaucracy. You can email them, you get on the phone with them, and you actually make things move pretty quickly. And they like that about us.
Why did I think it was the opposite? I thought that like they had to be this huge company and okay.
Some of these companies will have policies. Like I know JP Morgan, or at least someone told me who works at JP Morgan. So I've never talked to them, but like JP Morgan allegedly has a policy that they will sponsor people in these 3 positions. And so if you're not in one of those 3 positions, they've already made a decision. They have a written policy in their HR manual. That's wonderful. That's so good to know, because if you're on a career track to get to that, you can see how long it's going to take. If you're not, you got to peace out and you got to go find a different company because they're not going to help you. But yeah, mom and pop shops. I will mention this law firm again. They have over 600 employees and they're in 2 different states, and they're petitioning they sent out a memo that they had me write. And what the first employee found me on TikTok. And then I did the call with the CEO and the employee. They hired and they said, we want to do this for all of our DACA recipients.
Wow.
They sent out a company-wide email and said, if you don't have your residency or citizenship, we want to help you. We are a people first company. And like 9 or 10 people came forward and all of them are eligible for a green card. No one has like unlawful presence issues that are going to preclude them or anything. So it is a wide range. And then in terms of people who self-petition for themselves, it's also a very wide range. Social workers. I know a couple people were saying like, what about school districts? If I'm a teacher, school districts regularly do this. And the nice thing is superintendents are friends with other superintendents. It's like lawyers are friends with other lawyers. Superintendents are friends with other superintendents. So they have heard about this from other people. So schools will regularly petition for their teachers or their staff, whoever that may be. But there's a whole other world that is, I want to petition for myself. I don't want to have to use my employer.
And what about like healthcare workers, like nurse assistants?
Yeah. Nurses and physical therapists have already been determined. They have kind of like a shortcut. They've already been determined by USCIS for there to be a shortage in this field. Like these 2 positions, there's already a shortage. So the employer would, in this situation, would still ordinarily petition for them. I charge $2,500.
Wow. So it's even like
It's because the process is like cut in there. If there's 3 steps to this process, I'm just charging for the 3rd step because that's all that there is left.
wow.
And it also takes a lot less time. So it's like I wish that I could figure out how to talk to like hospital CEOs, because I was reading something here in a Phoenix magazine, and their entire industries built around recruiting nurses right now. And I'm like, guys, if you want nurses, you need to talk to these DACA nurses and get them their green cards.
There's a lot of DACA recipients who go for nursing and also for teaching. I know a lot.
Yeah. And strangely, I mean, I have never needed physical therapy, thank goodness. But physical therapists, there is a national shortage of physical therapists. And so the same shortcut rules apply to people who are physical therapists. So it's really cool. This is all, again, about your employer petitioning for you. But if you were a nurse and your employer didn't want to petition for you, you could do a self-petition as well.
And
you have options.
Petition, is it also easier if you don't have unlawful presence?
So the self-petition, the employer petition, any of that, it just substitutes the family petition. So like a lot of people, if you get married, you have your I-130 from your U.S. citizen spouse, and then you have your green card application. You either do your green card with the consulate or you do your green card with USCIS here in the U.S. In the employment-based scenario, it's an I-140, and you can get an I-140 approved through a self-petition through your career, through your employer petition through your career, but then you still have to deal later on, regardless of what this is. If you're not eligible for a green card because you have unlawful presence, it's still always an issue when it comes to the green card, not the petition part.
I see.
Yeah. So that's why when we talk to people, we always make sure that you're actually going to cross the finish line, because it's kind of like when people will file an I-130 for their U.S. citizen spouse, but they have the permanent bar or they have a false claim to citizenship or whatever. This I-130 is not going to do anything because you can't get your green card. So
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is like really juicy information. Like this, I told you guys this live was going to be juicy. I hope the echo's still not that horrible on you guys, and I hope you're sticking around. But again, we are, for those of you who are entering, we're also on YouTube if you have problems with the echo. Okay. All right. So as of right now, we kind of heard from those 2 scenarios. Would you say that a person who has an employer who might not be inclined to, like, for example, like let's say a nurse works at a hospital or, does their practice on a clinic, the employer says, no, we're not going to petition you. Can they also just try and do self-petition? Because it's nursing?
You can still self-petition, but you have to be a different type of person. Like, where I always talk about, like with the employer petition, I don't really care what your background is. If this is the job we're trying to fill, we're going to try to do our best to make this work. When you want to do a self-petition, you either need to, there are 3 ways with the self-petition for a national interest waiver. And this is one of the few instances where what they've named the process actually matches what it is. But you're saying, if this is in the nation's interest to give me my green card based on me doing something that's going to help the entire nation. Okay. So how do we do that? You're eligible by, I would say, being an exceptional person. And there's a test for this on the USCIS website. And you can see if you satisfy some of these. Satisfying the test is in this climate very difficult. And I really, really hesitate to even do that for people, because it's like it's there, but it's really, really heavily scrutinized. The second way is if you have a master's or higher. So if you have a master's degree or higher, and it can be the foreign equivalent, but if you have a master's degree or higher, you are automatically eligible. Now we go to the next step, and that is talking about what your work is and why it helps the nation. The third one is, let's say you have a bachelor's. You have to have a bachelor's plus 5 years of experience after you got your bachelor's. So usually that's going to be people who are like 25 years and older, because most of us didn't graduate from college when we were 19. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because you have to get 5 years of experience after you get your bachelor's. So those are kind of the three different ways to do a national interest waiver in terms of eligibility. Once we open the door and we are like, okay, I'm eligible, then we have to say, how is this going to be helpful to the nation? And that sounds a lot more intimidating than it actually is, in my humble opinion,
Okay.
because you can identify how helping a community impacts the community or impacts the nation. Think ripple effect. Like,
Okay.
if I'm helping my local community, this
Like,
helps
for
this.
example, someone that works at a nonprofit that does some type of like good work for the community.
Absolutely. My favorite example, and this is not my case, so I can't take credit for it, but there's an immigration lawyer. She shared this story of how a man counting salmon at a fish hatchery in Alaska helped the nation, and he got a national interest waiver. So how is this possible? We like fish. Fish is helpful to us. Salmon is good for us. And if he wasn't counting this, we wouldn't know how, like, I mean, come on. So like, this is where being a good lawyer really comes in handy.
They get creative, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and I'm dumbing it down, making it seem more simple than like what his job actually was. But at the end of the day, the core function of his job was to count how many salmon had hatched.
Wow. I love that. So I do have, before we continue with the juicy conversation, I have some community questions that I gathered. And I wanted to ask them just because I know some people that have asked the questions here just reminded me about them. So one of them is, I own a chiropractor clinic that grosses over $1 million. Could I self-petition?
Okay, so you have a couple of options there. One is you could look at an EB-5, which we have not talked about yet tonight. That is the where you invest. It depends on how much and like where you're going to, but it's anywhere over from $800,000 to over $1 million cash in a business in the United States, and it can be your own business, and you create 10 jobs. So when you're doing top line revenue or revenue of about $1 million, you usually don't have that much money you take home. You got to pay payroll, you got to pay your bills, all this other stuff, and like a lot of freaking taxes. Mm-hmm. So that's an option if you have a lot of cash that you've saved. I'm just mentioning it as an option. What's more likely is we would want to figure out, can this person divest their interest, their majority interest, to a loved one who they really trust and become a 49% owner of their company? Can they have someone else who's the boss, a spouse, a parent, your parent? These people need to have status. Okay. Divest yourself and become an employee of your company, and then go through the petition process from the company that you founded, but you are no longer the owner of. That is a possibility.
That's a better possibility through getting employed, getting your family to petition you.
To help out. Yeah, it's your business, but it's your employer would be your family member who owns the business. That's an option. Right. And then the other option is, if you're a chiropractor, then you're going to have an MD, right? So you should definitely look at a national interest waiver. And that would be the 100% first thing that I would talk to that person about, is how can we do a national interest waiver for you? And speaking of which, I went to the chiropractor this morning and it made me feel so good.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. So I have another one. For an employment petition, having a legal entry won't matter in this case, right? Everything would be a consular process. And I think you already mentioned this earlier, that like you would still have, like, for example, if you're in Mexico, you would go to Juarez, you would go through your consular interview for this.
Exactly.
I have another juicy one. It says, I don't want to get married. Wondering if, as an LA County employee, they don't petition. I already asked, but I have a LCSW, social work, as well. Does that help at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Social workers are great for doing a national interest waiver. And like, I'm painting with a broad brush. We have to talk to people individually, but it's one of those things where I'm like, if you are a social worker, we should talk about a national interest waiver and figure out if what you're doing and what you want to do in your future is something that we can show is in the nation's interest. And social work absolutely is a relatively easy one to show that this is in the nation's interest because they help the community so much in what they do. So even if you're currently working for someone, you can still do the self-petition over here, and they don't know about it. They don't need to know about it. And even if for some reason it got denied, nothing is going to be like impacted. So what were you going to say?
For this national interest waiver, I think this person, I know who asked this question. She's in the Spanish Dreamers group, and they entered lawfully. They were here on a humanitarian,
like TPS or something.
I think it was from Venezuela.
Okay, yeah, probably TPS, yeah.
So you would still say a national interest?
Yeah, I would still say a national interest waiver would be my first step. Whether that person needs to consular process or not would be a different analysis because TPS and DACA are a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah, so a national interest waiver for sure. Check it out.
Cool. Okay, and then this one you already answered. The employer would pay if it's an employer-based petition, but if it's a like through your career, then you would pay. Okay,
correct.
I learned something today.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so overall, around how many years would someone should expect to wait for this type of process normally? You already said depende.
I think depende de qué tipo de caso. I think it's more like, I think if you have in your head it's 2 to 3 years, then you'll be happy. It could be longer, it could be shorter. But I think if you think 2 to 3 years, you're going to be happy camper.
You know, I haven't flipped my desk because when you think about family-based petitions, some of them take 6 years, unless, it's an adjustment of status or something like that. It should be within a year, más o menos. Pero I don't think 3 years is unreasonable, you know? I mean, it sucks that we have to wait all this time, but it doesn't seem like something that would discourage me from doing it. Okay. And those are kind of like the ones that I think needed to be addressed because the other ones, you kind of like self-explain them. I wanted to see if you have some time, we can pick some from the chat here from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also respect your time. I know we already went a little bit over.
No, I'm delighted. And it's so fun because I have spent so much time, I feel like talking to the wall. And then I got on TikTok and I had no idea how great it would be to be able to jump into people's communities through TikTok. So I am so, so grateful. And it's amazing to be. And someone's saying pick some questions from YouTube too. But yes, let's do it. I'm so, so excited.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for
Everyone's been so nice. There were a couple people who were giving some mean comments the other day. And I was like, bro, I'm a nice lady and I have feelings too.
Girl, I was defending you. I was like, oh. No, because, I really do appreciate the attorneys that take time, not just to promote their services, but also inform the community, right? Like, y se mira, like I told you before reaching out to you, I stalked your link and I went through all your stuff and I see you have so much resources out there already. Like even the thing that you said, the little training on people, how they can talk to their employer. It's literally, I know that took you hours to make because editing is a pain. And I'm so grateful for that. Like all the little podcasts that you have, all that takes time. And I think some people just see black and white, right? Like you can either help me or not. And if you don't help me, you suck as an attorney. But unfortunately, immigration law sucks. You know, so even for that, like I think the attorneys that decide on immigration, they're already like brave souls, right? Because it's a law that really you're tied down, right? You got to get very creative. And thank you for also doing all this for our community and for even having a TikTok sharing information.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so let me see if I can get some juicy questions right here. If you see any on your end, definitely put them in.
Someone's asking a lot about what's Judge Hannon going to do with DACA, and I think that the answer is nobody knows. And so I think that the worst thing we can do is try to predict the future when your whole life or your whole adult life other people have been trying to predict the future for you. So right now, the best thing to do is just take the information that we have. This is like really, really hard to do, I realize, but the information that we have is that we're probably not going to get a decision for a while. So like, let's just enjoy the holidays. And even if like, I think the question needs to be, how can I stop wondering what the decisions of other people are going to do to my life? How can I take control of my life right now? I think is the question to ask, because you can do that right now. You don't have to wonder. There are so many ways that are available right now, and you can be in the driver's seat of your life. And then you can say like, whatever, Judge Hannon's decision doesn't impact me anymore. Whether they're going to have immigration reform doesn't impact me anymore because I'm in the driver's seat of my life. And that's my hope, is to like open the door for people and be like, buckle up. I'll see you later, you know?
Okay, I found a juicy one. If
Okay.
you go to your computer, I'm going to pop it here on the StreamYard. It says, I'm a caseworker. I work in the community helping my consumers deal with their mental health. Should I ask my boss in the mental health clinic to petition me? I have worked for them, and the other, it says 2 to 3 years with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should absolutely ask your boss to petition for you. And I think your boss would actually be really open to it if it is a clinic that sincerely is helping people, because imagine the impact that all of this is having on your mental health and the burnout and the fatigue that comes from helping other people solve their problems. And imagine like what a better employee you'll be when you have the security. And I think these are all pitching points to your boss, but you should totally ask about it. As a caseworker, I don't know if you're required to have a degree or not, like a bachelor's degree. If you are, then we can even talk maybe a little bit about the self-petition process, but definitely talk to your boss. That is an exciting thing. And again, you can be upfront. We charge $8,500 for it. It is totally possible that other people charge less, but that's what we charge. And so you can share that frame of reference, that's what the legal fees are, their filing fees and stuff like that too. But and it's paid over the course of like 9 months. So it's not even all at once. So hopefully that helps like to answer some of your employer's big questions.
Thank you for responding. And then I found another one here who actually like put a little donation. So I want to make sure to answer your question. Thank you. It says you got DACA 20, has a bachelor's, certified healthcare Spanish interpreter at level 1 trauma center night shift. Oh, teaching Spanish through online platforms. I've been invited to teach Spanish in Mexican university. So would someone like that, do you think would be able to try and get some type of?
Yes, and also, por favor, ayúdame. I want to speak Spanish better, so maybe I can have some lessons. So I think, yeah, the simple solution here is probably a self-petition. I don't know how long she's had her bachelor, or he or she has had their bachelor's for, but if it's been over 5 years since you got your bachelor's, then this is great. The issue becomes you got DACA when you were 20. So my mind immediately jumps to, I can probably help you get this petition process sorted out, but can I get you a green card? So I would need to know, do you have a qualifying relative for a 601A waiver? And a qualifying relative is a spouse or a parent or step parent who's a citizen or a resident. If not, and you're married, does your spouse have one of those people? Like, we need to find that in your family tree. And if they don't exist, then I need to figure out, when you were undocumented before you were and you didn't have your work permit before you were 20, I got to go back in time and see, like, were you taking advantage of it? Any employers? Because then maybe I can help you with a T visa or something like that helps you fix your status inside the United States. But yes, but I have more questions is the answer.
Okay. This one is a very simple one, and I like, because I think I've seen it here on TikTok also. The siblings count for the waiver, or it can be like parent?
No, the reason for this is so cruel. It is because they don't want anchor babies to be able to help you fix your status. And then if you come here and you're undocumented, but your sibling gets status, then essentially somebody came here and had an anchor baby, and the sibling is the anchor baby, and they're wanting to help. And it's so cruel how they designed that. And so the answer is no. It has to be your parent or a spouse who has residency for a 601A waiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other person just commented that they've had their bachelor's for 10 years.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Then I think the next question is, do you have a qualifying family member for a 601A waiver? Because we're going to need that.
I think for them, their question should be like, where can I get your information? I really need to consult so that we can like really like iron all these details.
Oh,
I think
so sweet.
one of the things that is like becoming clear from the live today is that there are ways, but it's very tricky and creative, and it will require longer conversations for people to like determine if, but this is what I want to say. If you're like light bulbs are going up, like if like sirens are popping up, you should consider. You should consider and
I hope that people are like, I've never heard of this before. I have new hope. And I think that that's for me, like part of the drive to keep sharing this information. And people will give me a hard time. They're like, it's not as easy as she makes it sound. It's like, for sure. It's a 60-second clip, bro. And I'm trying to get people to watch beyond 5 seconds.
That not everybody qualifies, not everybody's eligible, but there is an opportunity that I think most people don't look into because it just sounds tricky. It sounds so like it sounds difficult, right?
It's trickier than a spouse petition. Like I've had so many clients who like I remember one of my very first green card cases, someone came in and they were like, some ICE investigator just came to my apartment and they walked to my apartment, went through my laundry, looked at all the toothbrushes, looked in our nightstands and everything else, trying to find evidence if my husband actually lived with me. And it's like, okay, these are very complicated cases. We won that case. It was crazy, but we won that case. But yeah, employment-based cases, that's simple. We don't have to worry about a lot of the other things that are necessary.
I see this one that I don't know what it is. It says, what if you're in the power distribution field? I don't know what that is. Had DACA since 17 and have done advanced parole.
Yeah. So advanced parole, again, isn't really relevant for our analysis for an employment-based. But the reason folks who have DACA have had this like beaten into their head is because if you do advanced parole and maybe someday you married a citizen, you could get your green card in the US. But with this process, you have to go to the consulate. Now, power distribution field, like you, I don't know enough about exactly what that means. But my questions are, would your employer petition for you? Or do you have a bachelor's plus 5 degrees or a master's? If you don't have a bachelor's plus 5 years or a master's, then we really got to hone in on, let's talk to your boss and see if your boss will petition for you. And then we can go from there. So if you want to follow up with that, I would be happy to answer.
So I see this one that I think a lot of people are probably wanting to ask. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Is there a fee for initial consult?
So yes and no. So our initial step is to screen you. So I will not not to be rude, but I will not invite you to a paid consultation, and they're $99. So it's super affordable. I will not invite you to a paid consultation if I can't find a way to help you. And so
I love that.
Wow. That's because I'm not here to make a living off of $99 and telling people, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So
and if you get screened, you get an invitation to get into a consultation.
Exactly. So my boy Armando, he's my right arm for all these cases. He schedules his calendar is in my TikTok link. It's like schedule a call. He says that only about 3 out of 10 people pick up the phone when he calls them for their scheduled appointment. And that blows my mind because I know, and they're just missing out. I'm like, it kills me. But
I am going to tell everybody here, if you do that, you're not only like missing out your opportunity to get screened, you also hurt everybody, right? Because not every attorney does this where they screen to like avoid wasting your time, their time, and your money. It's very like se desilusiona uno de tratar de hacer las cosas bien. So don't be that person, okay?
No, I mean, I get it. We send all these like reminders and everything else, and sometimes I really think it's a mindset thing.
But it's an effort, right? Like to try and get screened everybody who tries to get screened, and Armando here like scheduling his stuff.
He's
And then
hustling. Yeah, he's hustling. The reality is, I think people get scared. What if they're going to be told no again?
but that's the worst that could happen. You get told no. Yeah.
I know, baby. It's easy for us to say.
Pero you know what? Like, it's not easy for us to say, because I've been there. Like, I've been there my entire life, right? And I did like 4 or 5 different attorney consultations before I even like was married, right? I wanted to know. You have to know what are the options, and you know, the realistic, like, it feels bad to learn that you don't have an opportunity, or that you know, like, you have to jump through all these hoops. But it's better to just know, because if not, you're just sitting there on your opportunity.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way.
This is, I mean, it's like being handed the key to the car and you get a little spooked because you're like, this is a really fast car. What if my whole life changes? And what if it does? Like, that could be so amazing. And then otherwise, yeah, you hang up the phone and you're like, well, it was exactly how I thought it was going to be. This sucks. And we are with you in that. We agree. This sucks when we can't help you. But we try everything we can. We even look for like T visas if you've had like exploitation in your job. Like, I mean, we look under every rock to try to help.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing your fees. I know that like some people don't like to talk about like prices on online.
No, I mean, I'm painfully transparent. My husband says I overshare too much, but money is just money. You know what I mean? Like, it's better for you.
That's are about, you know, like, you either can't.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to pick some from TikTok, just 1 or 2 from TikTok that you think are juicy. Do you see any on your end that you would like to address?
A lot of people are asking how to book a consultation and that sort of thing. And the most straightforward way is like, you can go to my website, which is newfrontier.us, and there's like a book a call. And like, that's the only way to get to a consultation, is to go through the call. Or you can go on TikTok. In my link in my little bio, the top one says book my screening or my discovery call or something like that. And that's how, and that's a free thing. We will not hit you up for money unless we know you qualify or we believe you qualify. And even then it's $99. And yes, I can help you wherever you are. Most of my clients are not in Arizona for this. Yeah.
So for those who are here on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, it would be, can you repeat the website?
Newfrontier.us.
Newfrontier.us. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to check if I have any juicy ones here on TikTok. Well, a lot of people say thank you.
You're so welcome. It's such a pleasure. Your community is such a kind, welcoming community.
Oh, gracias. We spend a lot of time. The moderators, thank you for being here. We spend a lot of time trying to build a good community.
Yeah, amazing.
Miro una que dice bachelor's in psychology. Oh, ya se me fue. Bachelor's in psychology and work in social work. Can I self-petition? An employer said they can't petition me.
Okay, say that one more time. What's their job?
Bachelor's in psychology and they work in social work.
They work in social work. Okay, and their employer is GAIN?
And their employer said they can't petition.
They can't do it. Okay. So how long ago did they get their bachelor's? Do we have 5 years of post-bachelor's experience? If so, let's look at a national interest waiver. And if not, sometimes you're like one or a year or so into getting a master's or something like that. But if you have 5 years after your bachelor's and you've been working in that same career field and like progressing, then it's the key that we've unlocked the door. Now let's just figure out what it is that your endeavor is going to be from here. That's what we get to do.
Okay.
And yeah, dietary aid and assisted living, absolutely your employer can sponsor you. I can't really stress enough, like you name any job and your employer can sponsor you. The answer is always yes, they can sponsor you.
So the main concern is, will they do it?
Will they do it?
In your experience, like, how often are they willing to do it? Like, and do some change their mind after?
Yeah, it's an interesting experience for all of us on the call, because really this is like, we're all here. We all want you to do this. Will you do it? And sometimes I mean, I've had one particular, it was like a dentist, and it's a dental office in California. And we've had 4 or 5 calls with them. They have so many questions. And I don't understand why. I guess I just have a different relationship with money. And I don't mean this in a conceited way, but like I have 130 people who work in my company. I have hired, onboarded, trained, and then had people move on. Or I've had to let them go so many times that I hold on to my good employees, like more than I hold on to a spouse or something. I've been married for 20 years. So it's like,
You're so
I know he's like, wait a second, but that's because I know he's not going anywhere. But my amazing people who are my right arm, like I would do anything to keep them. So when someone's like, I don't want to know that I want to pay $8,500, either you're not bringing the value to your job, or your employer is never going to see your value. You need to move on, because there's a problem there when they'll come to the table, but they don't want to invest $8,500 in helping you when you're literally making them money. There's something wrong there, and it's either you or them.
And if you think about it, like let's say the employer has to pay around $10,000 if they get that other. $10,000. Some companies offer that as a bonus, right? Like because we're talking people with experience. So it's really like maybe like you need to also tell them that, and it does cost money to train a person, especially like the turnaround. You train them and then they leave. If you've been there for a while and you bring value, porque si eres bien huevón, obviamente they're not gonna want to be like petitioning you, trying to get rid of you, Pero if you know you pull your weight, then you should ask for this with your head held high, right? Because you earned it. I was also gonna say something that is, like something that I know for it to be a fact. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a dreamer, but I know DACA recipients are such hard workers. I don't know if you have any employees in your firm that are, but we're ethical. Somos bien así como we're little, ¿cómo se dice? I don't know how to say it in English, pero le echamos muchas ganas, right? We really we overcompensate a lot of times. So I know if you're watching this live, most of y'all are that employee that the employer needs. So don't think for a second that you do not deserve this, because I think a veces we sell ourselves short. But yeah, like I don't know if you've ever had an employee that is a DACA recipient, but I know I've talked to like managers and supervisors and business owners, and they all say that. They all say that about us. We are hustlers.
Yes, it's true. I don't know if I can turn my camera around. You'll be able to see my house a little bit. But I don't know if you can see this. This is this book that I am having illustrated that I wrote. It's about one of my employees. Her name is not Esperanza. I've changed her name. But it's about her and her journey from Mexico to the United States. Were you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I mean, I've worked with her since 2020, and she was valedictorian of her class here in the United States. And like, she has been through so many things and is still she's perhaps one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. And I think you could say that about most people who I've ever met who have DACA, so hardworking, so deserving. And that's the part that makes no sense other than politics. So, yeah.
Thank you. Wow, interesting. Se llamaba Esperanza. That's the title.
Yeah, they called her Esperanza. Exactly.
Does it have a timeline to get released, or like?
No, it's like the illustrator who's making it for me. She works in the firm. Her name is Ariadna, and she's in Mexico. She has a lot of it done. I mean, I'm so proud of it. Let me see if I can turn this around again. You see this? Look at this, how beautiful it is.
It's really pretty. Wow.
And like, she did this from her mind. Like, I wrote the story, but she did this from her mind. And so anyway, it's so exciting. I'm trying to find a printer, and then I call it a book, but it's probably more like a little pamphlet because it's very short. But the idea is to not give up on your dreams. We had these dreams when we were little. someone told us now that we can't do them. But I really believe that we've been given dreams for a reason. And it's like our mind doesn't create things that cannot come into existence.
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Thank you. Okay, miro aquí que dice, I already booked a call with Armando. Hope I get invited to a paid call. Love that.
I know. And I gave him a hard time because someone said, oh, they called me super late and all this other stuff. And he's like, I was like, Armando, what's going on? He's like, I'm telling you, I call people on time.
So, anyway. No, but I did see that message. I saw some comments there on, guys, look, when I'm like inviting people, don't embarrass me like that. Damn.
Oh, but what's cool? I was like, hey, I am well known.
Yeah, like
not the way I wanted to be. I was like, hey, I'm getting a reputation. So anyway, yes, so Armando is a great guy.
You know what? Like, I think at the end of the day, even if there was a call late, I think we also have to be, mindful that at the end of the day, there's a person behind that phone, right? It's not a computer. It's not a self-automated like questionnaire that you're going to go through. It's literally a person you're consulting with. And it's the part of the, that people don't understand sometimes. And these conversations that have to do with immigration, I think can get very emotional. And I'm sure Armando has to give people space to vent and to like figure it out as the calls go through. So no, I appreciate you. Don't take them seriously when they say.
No, it's all good. I mean, it's also a service industry. So it's very interesting to be a lawyer and also be in customer service. And it's like, I was a waitress through college and cleaned houses and that sort of thing. So like, I know customer service. And at the same time, like doing legal work is so slow and it's all behind the scenes. So how do you show someone what you're doing when a lot of it's like, I edited this paragraph 40 times to make it perfect,
Yeah, yes. And at the end of the day, también, like nobody's perfect, right? Like, because I'm sure like someone's going to like message me later, like, well, I called them and, like this and this happened. And mira, la información se te da, the information is out there for you. And the thing that you have to do is do what's best for you. So if you think at the end of the day, Hillary is not for you, her firm is not for you, then it's not.
Yeah.
Not everybody's cup of tea. Not me like, maybe this is not a good sales pitch for you, but this is how I talk to people because at the end of the day, I'm a consumer too. And we have to decide for ourselves, right? Not because you know me, not because you think, Hillary's beautiful, let me do it with her, even though I don't know. You have to go in the back and like, do they know their stuff or not? And you make that decision once you book that call. Pero bueno, esa es otra plática.
Someone's asking, I'm a certified iTech. I make 40K in the US. I work for the University of Texas. Any way around the degree requirement? So we should see if the University of Texas, Eric, will petition for you. So I don't know why they're only paying you 40K. I feel like I don't know what minimum wage is in Texas, but that's really close.
That's 25. Yeah, Texas.
Yeah. So anyway, but I would wonder if the University of Texas would petition for you. Yeah.
I was going to ask if there's a requirement for how much they're paying you.
Oh, there's only 40K certified in the USA. Okay, thank you. I was like, I'm going straight to, I'm not okay with this pay for you, and I'm going to have a bone to pick with them.
You advocating for their pay?
Yes. Oh, yeah, exactly. So there's only 40,000 of you in the whole US. Yeah. I think that if the University of Texas won't petition for you, then you need to get out there and look for a job and find someone who will. And this is going to be a great part of your negotiation for your new position. I view it the same with your current employer as you're negotiating for a raise. You're not asking for a favor. I'm bringing value to the table. This is how you can show me that you have my back. By contrast, if you're going and you're shopping, you're going to apply for jobs and sort of thing. In the job interview process, you let people know that one of the requirements, and you want it in your offer letter, don't be fucking around with not having people have this in your offer letter and tricking you, is important for me. The part of my offer is that you will petition for me through the perm process.
That's a good strategy.
And then they're desperate to get you to come on. Of course.
Yes, because when you apply for a job, they're like trying to, pay you a certain.
They're trying to reel you in. They want you.
And sometimes you're not, you're like, you want more money, but maybe they're not able to because of whatever, thing is happening. You have some negotiating power there.
Yeah, this is your moment.
With this, yeah.
And just be upfront with it. This is not a secret that you're hiding. everyone has their eyes open right now. Everyone's seeing what's going on. If they don't, and you tell them you have DACA and they're totally unaware, you can bring them up to speed and just let them know that this is something that you will not regret this decision, but it is a hard requirement for me. Otherwise, I cannot move from my current position. So is this something that you guys are willing to do? Otherwise, I don't want to waste anybody's time, because you have that level of confidence. There's only 40,000 of you in the whole United States. So I don't know who's giving legal advice, Playas Azul, about doing stuff under a TN and a management consultant and all this other stuff, but you can't get a TN visa if you have DACA, because a TN visa requires you to have the intent to depart. And if you're living here on DACA, you have no intent to depart, so you cannot do it.
Already proven that we're here to stay.
Exactly.
So I have here one asking about, they own a small landscaping company. They've been paying taxes for 7 years. They have a current DACA and have done advanced parole, which is not relevant. Is there any way a person with a small business, such as a landscaping company, that could have a route to petition?
This is the route I would suggest, and that is to divest part of your business to a trusted business partner or 3 business partners. If you're worried that this, someone's not going to give you back your percentage when you want to buy back into your company, have 3 partners so no one can have a heist. But ideally, if you're married to someone who has status, or if your parents have status, you don't want your family member to be undocumented, because they're going to then highlight themselves as the petitioner. We don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's someone who you trust, who can have 51% ownership of your company and you're 49%, and then you're an employee, they can petition for you.
So it's kind of like a workaround, kind of like earlier. O sea, you might not be able to self-petition like that by owning it, but if you divest the larger percent of your company,
the majority interest,
a U.S. citizen person that you trust, obviously,
or a resident, exactly.
Oh, you're a resident too, okay.
Yeah.
Then they are your employer, and they would be willing to petition you, and that's one way you could kind of get creative about that.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. So someone's asking how to prove step-parent relationships. There's actually a very specific test on the USCIS website. It tells you how to do this, but your parent and your step-parent had to have been married before you were 18. And if they divorced after you were 18, as long as you continued, if you can show you continue to have a relationship with your now ex-step-parent, that step-parent relationship can continue for USCIS purposes, even if the parents have since divorced. But they need to have been married before you turned 18 for them to be your step-parent for USCIS purposes. So It's like this whole if then, the meme where it's all the little graphics going out in front of her. I feel like that's immigration.
Yeah, wow. And it gets so tricky, right? Anything for teachers in the state of California if the union isn't willing to petition?
Yeah, I would say we need to shop around and find you a school district that will petition for you, or we need to think about perhaps you're going to open your own business, open your own school. The nice thing about a national interest waiver is we have to show USCIS that you have an endeavor. An endeavor is something that literally means, I don't know if it literally means, but in my little Kansas girl mind, it just means I have a hope and a dream. My hope and a dream is to do this specific thing. I want to open a school that, helps Spanish and English speakers to be bilingual all the way through school in every single class. And we're going to specialize in these various things. That's what my endeavor is. Maybe it's a micro school. I know that those are in a very high demand. That is your hope and your dream. And then we have to show that you're the right person to do it, and that this dream is going to help the entire nation. And so then we go pull apart Arizona is the worst in all education rankings in the whole United States of America. So please come to Arizona and start this school here, because we could really use it. But this is how we tell the story. You don't actually have to go do the endeavor. No one's going to check back in with you and be like, did you go start this business? Did you fulfill this? This was your hope and your dream, and you sell it. And that's where I think that that's what the fun of being a really good lawyer is.
That's when you talked about being willing to be creative and explore our own.
Exactly. And you don't have to go do it. And you're not promising USCIS that if you give me the green card, I will do this. So there's no strings attached to it. It's just like, I am so exceptional that I could do this if you were to give me a green card. Not, I will do this if you give me a green card.
I like that. Interesting.
Eric, you're so funny. I believe you. I'm actually petitioning for, I think, like 6 or 7, maybe 8 employees right now. I brought those employees here on TN visas. They are amazing. They're all Mexican attorneys, and we're in the process of doing their perm petition process. So it's super fun. So yeah, it's definitely something that I am very open to. But Eric, I thought you said you were like an eye person. I don't know.
Experts in your law firm.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't even know how to say what you are.
Miro que puso Janet, what if I acquire unlawful status, but I have a 245I?
Yeah. So 245I is this, it was created in 2001 or 2000. It went into effect in 2001. And it's basically if you had a qualifying family member petition for you before April 30th, 2001, and then we could show that depending on when the petition was filed, that you were here on a certain day, or that the family member who originated from that petition was here, that it forgives an illegal entry and you can fix without leaving, and it forgave that you entered without permission. So you may have unlawful presence, but if you're able to fix without leaving, then that's not going to impact you. So it is 245I analysis is very complicated because you're probably the child of someone who was petitioned for. So you're like grandfathered in is the way they describe it. Mm-hmm. And that is a whole can of worms that Armando won't even be able to help you with. One of our attorneys would help you with it. But we would want to see your petition. So whenever you do book a call with us, just know that the first thing I'm going to ask for is I want to see the 245I petition because I got to figure out where all this stuff fits in to make sure that you're actually eligible. So that's how that process would go. But those would allow you to adjust status if everything worked out rather than go to the consulate.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
I think it's been a really, really insightful conversation. And that is really the point of this Juicy Life. I wanted to kind of throw this information at you guys so that you're able to see, like kind of self-identify. If you think that there's an opportunity for you there that you want to explore, that's one option that you may have that you didn't know that you had. Y esa es la información que se comparte, okay? So if you learn something new, please go tell other people, tell other viewers.
Or I'm even curious what someone learned here today. Like, what did you learn? Because I never know what people already knew versus like what they may have picked up. But yeah, exactly. Share the good news because there's so much hope out there. There's a ton of crap, but there's also so much good.
Yeah. And I want to wrap it up with, for one, can you repeat to those who are just joining how they can contact you? How can they get more information? Because I think one thing we learned today is that this is tricky, right? And it's going to require you literally sitting down with Armando and talking through all your history so that they can determine if there's any possibility for you guys. So how can they contact you?
Yeah, TikTok is the easiest place. So I get a lot of DMs and I try to respond to those. Like I'll be in bed at night responding to those. But the easiest way is to book a call with Armando. And he's my legal assistant who handles all my DACA cases. And he does your intake for free. And so if we can help you, amazing. We will invite you to a paid consultation for $99. And then otherwise, follow and learn more. And maybe I will, and I think that when you follow me, TikTok will probably suggest more people like me, and maybe you'll learn even more from other attorneys and just really fill up your hope and trust cup so that you're ready to kind of, to get in the car and drive and be completely in control of your own life.
I love that because this is really about confianza. Okay, so I want to talk about some takeaways from the live. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you a question. So maybe this is some time for you to think about. But the question will be, what is your advice for dreamers that are listening today? Like what is your one advice that you could give them? But before that, I want to give 3 takeaways for those who like jumped in late. Today, I think one of the big takeaways is that there is opportunity for some DACA recipients who have an employer, whatever your industry is, who would be inclined to petition. They don't even want, maybe they don't know yet that they want to petition you, but who would be inclined? If you think that's a possibility for you, it is worth looking at it, because some might change their mind. Some might not know until you tell them, right? Because they don't know what they don't know. So that's one takeaway for me that I learned. And then also, I think that it's not that lengthy. I thought it was going to be like, I thought it was going to be like 15 or 10 years, if I'm being honest. So hearing that it would be 2-3 years, I think it's reasonable. Even less perhaps, or even a little bit more, but I just don't think it's completely crazy, considering that we've been here stuck with like DACA for like the longest time, right?
Yeah.
So those, I think, were 2 big takeaways that I thought were interesting to note. If you can think of any other takeaways, put them on the chat, because I love seeing what other people learned or got from these conversations, because they take time. Okay, these type of lives, they take time. They're juicy, they're good for their community, but they're definitely time consuming, and it's always a good reward to see that someone learned something new. Okay, so put them on the chat. And now I wanted to ask our guest speaker, Hillary, what is your advice for dreamers listening today? What is your one go-to advice?
I really think it comes down to making a decision. So this is where like faith and religion and maybe woo-woo all meet.
Mm-hmm.
But I drew this card earlier when I was like, I don't know how to show you, but I guess I can show you here. But this is beautiful. I have this deck that I got in Tulum.
Oh,
and it says life is a gift, live in the present. And it's talking about, presence and what is happening right now is happening for the ultimate good. And like, if that's your core belief and we really believe that, then I believe that you do not get a dream in your heart for something and a vision in your mind unless it exists. But we have to make a decision that we are going to pursue it endlessly. And you and I talked before we got on about, I had this journey with infertility, and like, I could see myself pregnant. I could see myself holding my child, but for 7 years, I was told I would never get pregnant. I have 4 kids, like miracles. And I don't believe the immigration status stuff is miraculous. It is the law. And like, you just work through things. Yeah, sometimes things just work out, but having a baby really is miraculous. But I say this to say, if you're on the fence and you, like how you described, you went to all these different lawyers and you were going to find a way. There is a relentless pursuit of what is yours that I encourage you to have. And even if it's not through me, I really believe that it is out there for you, and I'm rooting for you. And it may not be right now, but I really believe we will eventually have immigration reform. And I really believe this to people, but it is to make a decision that you will endlessly pursue this and that you will not take no for an answer. You are just anytime we get no, we're just asking the wrong person. We've just got to find the yes.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much for that message. I think like that was deep.
It's deep. It is. But it's like, it's so fundamental to how we engage in our life.
Wow, mira, aquí puso the person that asked earlier, IB Spanish, just learned that my hospital sponsors all the time.
Amazing. I bet they already have an immigration lawyer they work with.
If you go to
their green card.
I'm your madrina. I'm your madrina.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes. There has been this person who has asked us so many times, is a waiver available for unlawful presence to adjust status through a USC due to disability? No. I mean, you still have to adjust status if you don't have a lawful entry. There's like not a way to be like, oh, my USC has a disability, I should get to adjust status here. It doesn't work like that. You have to have status to adjust from, unless you are marrying or you have a child who is a US citizen over the age of 21. So you have to have an immediate relative. So the answer is no. But but it would be a very good basis, most likely, for a waiver, but not to be able to just suddenly be able to adjust status. I hope that helps. I saw your question come through so many times.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't get through everybody, but I hope that this kind of like nudges something or resonates with some people. I think there's a lot of different careers that we mentioned today, but it's not all of them at all, because as you said, it's very broad, right? And if you get really creative with it, there may be a way.
Well,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting, and let's stay friends. This was really cool.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I will post some of the information on the description of the videos. So the links that we mentioned today will be there. If you missed them by any chance, go ahead and go to the YouTube, and then in the description there will be some information there too. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody, nos vemos. Gracias, Hillary.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care. Okay.
Yay, we did it.
And now, thank you so much, Hillary.